Hi, my dear Astro family. Well, today we are going to be talking about the breakdown for the triple conjunction that is happening in a sign of Aries between Saturn, Mars, and Mercury. Now, I did make a general video about this, but here I'm going to be breaking this down for all 12 signs, and I'm going to be doing quite in a unique way. We are going to be doing um, according to house rulership. So how the playing game is going to be playing. We have got three planets. So we have got particular house combinations that could be happening. For example, if I'm talking about Aries rising sign, then we have got Saturn, Mars, and Mercury. So I'm looking at Saturn rules the 10th house and the 11th house. Mars rules the first and the 8th house, and Mercury rules the third house and the sixth house. So there are a few possible house combinations that could be happening. So, for example, for Aries rising sign, there could be a 1, 3, and 10th house activations. There could be a 1, 6, and 10th house activations. Why? Because one is ruled by Mars, one is ruled by Mercury, and the other one is ruled by Saturn. Then we can have a combination of 8th house, 3rd house, and 10th house, and then we can have an 8, 6, and 11th house combination. There are other combinations, but I decided to pick four of them, which I might feel like that's the most important one for you. So I hope that makes sense. But I highly recommend listening to the general video where I give you a lot of indications of what exactly happens and how you are able to put that into your natal chart. Looking at these house combinations are actually super important, but one thing you should not forget. Everything is going to be filtered through the house position where the triple conjunction takes place. So even if I'm looking at, for example, the 8th house, 10th house, and let's say a third house combination, that house rulership program is going to be filtered through in your first house. So imagine for an Aries rising sign, this is kind of like a landing zone. So I hope that makes sense. So let's get going. Aries rising sign, this triple conjunction is occurring in your first house. So this is an identity overhaul because the planets involved rule other areas of life. Their conjunction kind of tethers those houses together. So let's look at some of these combinations. 1, 3, and 10. So that could talk to you about the self, the skills, and the career. So it feels like that's a bit of a professional rebrand. Maybe you are using your personal voice or a new skill to cement your professional status. It's kind of like a hard launch of a new business identity. There could be potentially a 1, 6, and 10th house energy happening also, which is about the self first, 6th house work and health, and 10th house is career. So that could be, for example, that you have to be hitting a deadline, taking on a heavy workload or new health discipline to achieve a long-term career goal. Pretty much that tells you no pain, no gain. Also, we can have an 8, 3, and 10th house combination, resources, communication, and career. So maybe that's a contractual wall, maybe negotiating financial shifts or taxes regarding job, public standing. Maybe it's a finalized business merger or even coming up with certain type of exit strategies connected to your work. And finally, we can have an 8, 6, and 11th house combination as well, which is about resources, service, and networking. So maybe you are working hard to manage your finances or thinking about certain type of passive income and then how to make that within a group or a community setting, online, and so forth. Now, don't forget that Mercury and Saturn each rule two houses for Aries. So and there could be a 1, 6, and 11th house combination as well. So maybe you are putting your personal energy into a strict daily routine, or kind of like you are in a fix-it mode to reach a major social or even financial aspiration. This is about disciplining your body a little bit to maximize gains or disciplining your work routines to maximize those gains as well. Or with that eighth, third, and 11th house combination, Maybe it's a sudden intense communication regarding a secret or money that impacts your social circle, your friends, even your income as well. So you might want to be having a conversation about pay rise, or you have to be sharing harsh truth with friends. With that 1 3 11 combination, it's about building a network, and you might be doing quite an aggressive marketing, writing, or teaching. So for Aries rising sign, this is the time to actually send a message across in a way into the public eye, and then to see how people are reacting. So the reason why it matters, Aries rising sign, because the ruler of your career, your income, your daily work are all sitting on your ascendant. So this isn't just, one day. This is an entire almost 2 year cycle and at least 4 months, okay? And then you are the bridge between your long-term ambitions and your daily grind. Because Saturn and Mars are in Cancer Dwad. You might be making big 10th house career moves while feeling a deep private need to protect your peace of mind as well at the same time. So it really feels to me that you are going to be balancing the urge to speak, to act, with maybe the weight of professional reputation. You might be wanting to establish kind of like the fortress of yourself. You are defining your boundaries, and that's Saturn, and then you are defending them with Mars. So let's move on to Taurus rising sign. So this triple conjunction happens in your 12th house. And this is very internal, very psychological. It is happening behind the scenes because the planets are hiding in your 12th house. The house rulers they bring with them often point to hidden stressors, subconscious patterns, or work being done in isolation also. So Mars rules your seventh house, for example, partnership, open enemies. It rules your 12th house, which is solitude and loss. Mercury rules your second house, money and values. Fifth house, creativity, children, speculation. And Saturn rules your ninth house and 10th house. Ninth house is beliefs, travel, and 10th house is career and status. Now, if you are unsure about what I am doing right now, listen to the beginning of the video because I have explained there in detail what exactly we are going to be doing in this video. But pairing these up, for example, you can have a 7, 2, and 10 combo. So the partner, the money, and career. So this might be talking to us about you coming up with hidden financial strategies. You and your partner are working secretly on a major career move or certain type of financial restructuring. It's a bit of a silent kind of power play. We can have a 7, 5, and 9 combo as well, which might be a disagreement with a partner or over a creative project. Or actually, potentially, we are sitting down with the partner over trying to launch a creative project as well. Maybe we are discussing where to go, where to relocate, or certain type of legal matters. This is definitely not a private type of energy as much, but we have to be dealing with it internally. So these energies can cause a bit of a frustration within us. It could also represent 12th to and ninth house energies. So maybe you are spending isolated time and personal resources on a difficult certification or a mastery of a subject, or you are trying to pay your dues in private. So you might be doing quite a lot of psychological cleansing in a way. And there could be a 12th, 5th, and 10th combo as well. So you might be working behind closed doors on a creative risk, a project that will eventually impact your public standing. So it feels like you are feeling a lot of pressure regarding your partnership and how it affects your fun or your children and your public reputation. Now, when we are talking about partnership, remember this is not just romantic partnership. Because this triple conjunction is in your 12th house, you might be keeping these frustrations to yourself, trying to fix them with a lot of discipline. But of course, Mars doesn't necessarily like being in the 12th house because it's all about suppressed anger. So something is really triggering you. Or I can imagine unexpected expenses, maybe related to a foreign matter, a travel, that force you into a period of withdrawal. So this is about learning the value of what you believe in, or maybe a partner's finances or career hitting kind of a bit of a wall there. And then maybe you are in the one in the background, kind of trying to, motivate or keep things afloat a little bit, but you are not getting credit for it. It really feels like that you are establishing your psychological boundaries. You are about to be ending certain type of old cycles as well. You are dealing with hidden enemies, self-sabotaging thoughts and patterns. And hopefully, this couple of years ahead of you is going to help you break old habits, but through sheer willpower. Since the conjunction is in Cancer Dwad, this is very private. It can be familiar as well. You might be dealing with ancestral patterns or deep-seated fears about security. Gemini rising sign. So this triple conjunction happens in your 11th house. So that's a quite a goal-orientated position actually. That's quite a network-heavy placement. With Saturn Mars being involved, your social circle feels more like a bit of a military camp rather than a party. So you might be expecting certain type of clashes. I'm going to be looking at this from a house rulership point of view. So if you don't exactly know why I'm listing you certain type of numbers, you might want to be listening to the beginning of the video where I explain this. But Mars rules your sixth house, the house of work, health, and conflict. It rules your 11th house, friendship, gains, goals. Mercury rules your first and fourth house. Fourth house is home, family, and roots. And Saturn rules your eighth house and ninth. Eighth house is shared resources, a bit of a crisis, and the ninth house is about travel, wisdom, beliefs, studies. So a couple of or a few combinations that could be happening. 168. So I can imagine you are personally grinding through a difficult work task or working extremely hard to resolve a major debt or a financial obligation. High pressure, but it potentially might be giving you high reward. Remember, the 11th house is often about reward. There could be a 4, 11, and ninth house combination too, where maybe you are trying to bring some of your values into your professional group to teach or to expand their philosophical vision, or you are ready to build a tribe with kind of like a shared goal, shared belief. There could be a 1, 11, and 8th house combination too, which might show that you are negotiating your cuts of a profit, maybe with a large organization or network, or you might be having a financial meeting with someone. And there could be a 4, 6, 9th house trigger too, which is very much about organizing your home life and daily chores, potentially to be accommodating long distance travel, or you might be creating a bit of a study corner. It really feels like that you are taking a very firm stand within your social circle or professional network. Because the eighth house is involved, this usually means cutting ties with people who are draining your energy and resources. It's kind of like you making an executive decision that I want to be protecting my gains. I want to be going after or towards a better future. But I also can imagine that you are working from home on maybe a project that involves a group, a community, a friend of yours. But your private life it seems to be dominated by certain type of specific duties right now, and you want to be finishing off something. Or I can imagine that there is a massive focus on kind of gaining big money. And so the gains, investment, taxes, and then you might be looking at the legal frameworks of those. And maybe you are applying this smart Saturn discipline to make sure that your long-term wealth is actually secured or gained. It's really, the 11th house is where you can, scatter your energy a little bit. And I think this triple conjunction is really wanting you to narrow the focus down. So audit your friendships and your long-term ambitions, and you might be dealing with some group conflicts or very stiff bureaucratic hurdles in reaching your goals. I think it's about creating that high discipline path towards a major win or income stream. And all these are happening on Cancerian Rod. So it is you are being driven by a need for emotional and physical security. It's not just about networking for fun, but we are networking to be able to kind of build that nest in a way. Cancer rising sign. So this triple conjunction is happening at the very top of your chart, in your 10th house, and that's the house of career. That's the most public houses of all. That's the most visible part of your chart. So it's kind of like a high noon for your career, reputation, public standing. Um, this triple conjunction happens on Cancer Dwad, so this is actually going to make you highly sensitive. It feels like it. Now, Mars rules your fifth and 10th house. Mercury rules your third and 12th house, and Saturn rules your seventh and eighth house. So I'm just going to be listing you numbers. If you are unsure about what I'm talking about, you might want to listen to the introduction of the video where I explain this. Possible combinations are 5, 3, and 7. So that's creativity, skills, and the partnership. So I can really imagine you trying to use your unique talent and communication skills to potentially secure a contract, a partnership. Uh, we can have a 10, 12, and 8th house combo, which might be you are handling a private corporate matter, or you are handling financial shifts, settlements, and taxes, for example, at work or with bosses. Because let's say you would like to leave your job behind, and then how much holiday I've got left, and so on. We can have a 5, 12, and 7th house combination as well, which might be about dealing with a partnership regarding a child, a project that requires a lot of behind closed doors kind of strategic work. And also, we can have a 10, 3, and 8th house combo as well, which might be you are ready to deliver a blunt message about a professional situation to work, or certain type of massive structural changes that might be happening within your career. So I think you are maybe potentially trying to turn your personal passion and creative project into a kind of professional identity. And therefore, you might start networking. It's about professionalizing your joy. Because of the Mars Saturn way, this feels like a massive responsibility, not necessarily a hobby, though. Or maybe you are privy to secret information or technical data regarding a financial death and rebirth. You have to be very disciplined with your words. That's Saturn Mercury to ensure that you don't leak info before it's time. I mean, imagine you would like to resign and then, for example, the bosses already know about it because you have told someone. I can imagine that you might be working with someone, a client, or on a project that hasn't been announced yet. It looks like that you are kind of like focusing a little bit on preparation work right now. You're building the foundation up so that your launch can become quite bulletproof. For me, it's really about making something official this week. It's about managing the pressure of expectations from bosses while dealing with some hidden anxieties or even costs as well. It's about you becoming the master in your field, but through grit and kind of a lot of strategic communication. And because it happens on Cancer Dwad, it really feels like it's really vital for you. That Saturn is definitely giving that professional warrior energy, but potentially it's all about you wanting to protect who you are. You want to be protecting your vitality and your own kind of sanity as well, especially if you feel like that work situation is kind of like burning out or burning you out. Leo rising sign. So, well, one straightaway thing that I would like to mention about this triple conjunction, it happens in your ninth house. But don't forget that the sun is on a critical degree in that chart as well, 2952. So there's a bit of a drama happening here. The last degree of a sign is about kind of like a last breath. So this in the triple conjunction context, this means that the Sun is actually handing over the keys to Taurus, while the Mercury, Mars, Saturn kind of engine is still firing, up at full blast on kind of early degrees of Aries. So, but Mars rules your fourth house and your ninth house. Mercury rules your second house and 11th house. And Saturn rules your sixth and seventh house. So, looking at the possible combinations. And if you don't know what I'm doing, please listen to the beginning of the video because I explained there in 2 minutes how I'm going to be approaching this triple conjunction. But possible combinations are 4, 2, 6. So home, money, and work. So I can imagine that you are investing your funds into a domestic project, a home business. Maybe that requires quite a lot of daily labor. There could be a 9-11-7th combo, which might be you working with a partner or a large organization on an international project, legalities, and that define your truth. There could be a 4-11-6 combo as well. So you might be taking on heavy responsibility within your local community or family network as well. And it can be a bit of a burden, but maybe you feel like I have no choice and then I have to deliver. There could be a 9-2-7 combination as well. So maybe this is about paying for a certification or a legal expertise or signing a contractual agreement. But also, it might be talking to you about that the husband or the wife has to travel because of work. So, what it really feels to me is that maybe you are dealing with a property or family matter that has legal or international implications, and it might involve a spouse or a business partner. With the sun at 29-degree, maybe it's a long-standing battle regarding your home or beliefs. It's kind of like reaching a finish line. Maybe you are systemizing your income stream from your professional network. You are trying to potentially make your knowledge somehow profitable. Saturn is trying to make sure that the structure is solid, while Mars provides a drive to push that invoice through, basically. Or I can imagine that you being stuck in kind of like a training program or a social obligation that feels like a full-time job, but you are disciplined, focused, likely working on a massive piece of writing, creative work, research as well. And maybe you just want to be a little bit in a mental isolation. Now, the sun in that particular chart is on 29 degrees, so it also feels like you're at a crossroads. It's an end of a journey. So you have learned all you can. You did it in an Aries way. So now you're going to have to start applying that knowledge towards your career. And maybe you feel a bit of a pressure. Um, Remember, your sun is going to be transitioning from warrior mode into more of a builder mode. So that's about whatever you studied, I have to start making money out of it. I think it's all about refining your worldviews and securing, for example, yourself as a teacher or as a legal expert and so forth. Maybe you have to be dealing with some dogmatic people, or and then you might be expecting some fights over certain type of belief systems. And maybe you stop guessing, and then you are cementing what you know. With Mars Saturn being on Cancer Ward in the ninth house, ninth house, travel, education, it is very much tied to your 12th house. So maybe it's an internal journey actually that you are about to be taking, or you are studying something but in private, secluded way, and so on. So let's move on to Virgo rising sign. Virgo, this triple conjunction is happening in your eighth house, the house of that's psychology, pretty much a bit of an endings. This is the house of surgery as well, or other people's money. So I can imagine a dental operation, for example, or an end of an agreement, regarding a joint financial venture. Um, this might be also about how to manage the crisis of my partner, for example. And this might tell you that you don't have that superhuman effort, for people who wouldn't do the same for you, or you shouldn't have it. Now, Mars rules your third house and eighth house, while Mercury rules your first and 10th house. Saturn rules your fifth and sixth house. So I'm going to be giving you potential combinations. If you don't know what I'm doing, please listen to the beginning of the video where I actually explain this. But I can imagine you and your career are kind of facing this test of strength regarding debt or shared resources. This is kind of like having to put a lot of manual labor into restructuring your entire life's work, not to have that kind of power cut in your finances. Um, Sorry about that. Just for some reason, my screen started becoming fuzzy, and I'm not too sure if it's actually fuzzy for you. No, it's okay, it's fine now. So, this is quite an intense placement, to be frank, where things are kind of like out of control. So you can really put a lot of energy into trying to bring control back into your life. So one of the house pair combination is 1 10 8. So I am thinking that this is about you handling some crisis situations, for example, with work. And that might be connected to money. It feels like it's a make or break moment for your reputation, for your career as well. We can have a 3 6 8 combo as well, which is maybe using your technical skills to work through a mountain of debt, legal paperwork, doing a lot of accountancy. And the accountancy could be happening, just an emotionally being accountable for something. We can have a 1 5 8 combo as well. So maybe you are ready to invest into something, a bit of a creative gambling. And that might require quite a superhuman effort to succeed. And we can have a 10 6 3 combination as well, which might be you about putting the work in, having to work a lot actually. But you might be having some kind of heated boardroom moments with coworkers or even with bosses. I mean, imagine that these bosses, for example, would like to cut the cost so much that your work kind of becomes impossible. So I'm feeling like it's a bit of a mining period coming up for you. So you're digging deep into your professional structures. You are trying to clear your debts. You are trying to settle certain type of financial obligations. There's a lot of test of strength where you are forced to be the adult somehow in the room. And therefore, this could really lead to certain type of kind of like having to have really serious chats, for example, within our partnership as well. I also, you might just want to have a Botox or you want to be doing a bit of a boxing. This is about using discipline to fix a physical issue or a debt because Mercury, the load of your chart is involved. It's about you having to be very aware of every single detail of the process that you would like to make changes about. I can also imagine that you are finalizing a creative project or a contract that involves inheritance or certain type of a payoff, or simply this might be talking to us about an end of an agreement, something that might not be serving your creative growth anymore. I think there is a lot of focus on financial discipline and having to kind of manage the heavy stuff in your life, facing those inner demons as well. Especially if you have been carrying the weight of others. or you having to be dealing with other people's crises and deep-seated fears. Maybe this is about you having to make that psychological or breakthrough, or you're going to have to knock down the financial walls. Maybe you have to be enforcing, certain type of financial measures, for example, and you have to be sitting down with your partner to kind of talk this through. Now, the Saturn Mars conjunction happens on Cancer Dwad. So this means that certain type of crisis or restructuring might involve a group, a friend, or even some of your long-term hopes. It really feels like that there is a bit of a suppressed rage, a bit of a bitterness happening in your life right now. And because you are naturally a perfectionist, it might be an inhibited vitality. And if you, especially if you feel like that you are a failure, then remember it's not necessarily a failure, it's just having to do a lot of renovation and changes in your life. And maybe you have to be stripping things back like bare. It's kind of like you having to be the police somehow in other people's life as well. And you have to be doing a lot of auditing before actually you rebuild your life. But it really feels like that you are actually rebuilding things. So let's move on to Libra rising sign. Libra, this triple conjunction is happening in your seventh house. So it really feels like you are meant to be defining boundaries, potentially through open dispute or certain type of strategic negotiations. It's a bit of a war room there. There's a war room approach to relationships, and maybe you are moving away from peacekeeping to truth telling. Now, Mars rules your second house and seventh house. Mercury rules your ninth house and 12th house. And Saturn rules your fourth and fifth house. So I'm going to be giving you house combinations. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please listen to the very first 2 minutes of the video because I'm explaining there why you are getting these numbers. But imagine that you are kind of like in a bit of a heated conversation or a battle regarding a certain type of a partnership. And you are about to define the terms, not just keeping the peace. Saturn, which rules your fourth and fifth house, is pushing you to set strict limits on how your private life or family interacts with your professional partnership. And since Mercury rules your ninth house, you may be dealing with complex paperwork or legal requirements that feels like a bit of a prison for you. So, on one hand, Libra rising often avoid conflict. So use this transit to realize that enforcing law and setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, not necessarily aggression. Because Mars rules your second house and seventh house, ensure your joint finances are kind of like legally airtight. End of agreements may be necessary if the math doesn't necessarily add up. And it is happening on Cancer Dwad, so your partnership battles are likely fueled by a deep private need for emotional safety. Ask yourself, am I fighting for fairness or am I fighting to feel safe at home? Now let's look at the house pairs. Because obviously I wanted to make this video um, based on the house pairing because I think it's very important from a rulership point of view to look at your chart from time to time, of course, because your predictions are going to be becoming more accurate. So one pair combination is 294, which might be a property dispute, a legal or philosophical disagreement over family real estate or joint assets, potentially with a partner. Then we can have a 295 combination, which is a formal agreement regarding an investment or creative product based on legal terms and finances. We can have a 212-4 combination as well, which is about dealing with a hidden financial matter, potentially concerning the family home alongside a partner. We can have a 2-12-5 combination, which is a secret, creative or speculative partnership that involves potentially a financial risk. We can have a 7-9-4 combination as well, which is the war of beliefs at home. It might be a kind of like an open discussion, an open dispute with a partner about where to live or the legal structure of the home environment as well. We can have a 7-9-5 combination, which is a legal battle involving children or a high-stake creative project. We can have a 7-12-4 combination also, which might be a standoff that forces you to isolate yourself or move out of a shared home temporarily. And there could be a 7-12-5 combination too, which is an ending an agreement regarding a creative project due to hidden factors or behind the scene kind of like betrayals. So, because this conjunction happens in the seventh house, the seventh house is where the event is actually happening. So, whether it is a marriage, a business contract, or an open enemy, the seventh house acts as the courtroom where all these other house matters are forced to be resolved. So when we are looking at the 7-9-4, 7-9-5, focus, which both involve the ninth house, which is the house of law and philosophy, this is why the Mars-Saturn meaning of enforcing law is so prominent for Libra rising sign right now. So this is about kind of like lawyering up, applying strict philosophical rules to your closest relationship. When you look at the 2-12-4, 2-12-5 focus, that involves both the 12th house, the house of hidden things. So this is a bit of a suppressed rage, a bit of a bitterness. Uh, and maybe you are dealing with financial or creative issues that you can't talk about openly. You are keeping them under wraps while the public seventh house dispute kind of like rages on. So, Libra rising sign, obviously the fourth house, the fifth house are being kind of dragged into the seventh house arena. So this isn't just about a partner, it's about how your partner is fundamentally changing your home security and your ability to express yourself creatively. Um, so let's now move on to Scorpio rising sign. So Scorpio rising sign, this triple conjunction is happening in your sixth house. This is the engine room of the chart right now, the domain of daily labor, health, technical service, routines. Since your chart ruler is one of the major players in this conjunction, this transit is a very deep, very personal for you. It's a system upgrade for you. So Mars rules your first and sixth house, Mercury rules your eighth and 11th house, and Saturn rules your third and fourth house. So let's look at the house combinations. And potentially, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might want to listen to the very beginning of the video where I'll explain this to you. But we can have a combination of 183. So this is kind of like a bit of a technical investigation, using your personal drive to research, maybe a complex financial or a psychological matter that might require a lot of detailed work. We can have a 184 combination as well, which is a lot of manual labor at home, like you are fixing a home structural issue that involves maybe expense, a bit of a debt as well. We can have a 1-11-3 combination, which is about you mastering a new technical skill to improve your standing in your professional network. We can have a 1-11-4 combination. That's about potentially organizing your home to accommodate a new career path or a social aspiration too. We can have a 6-8-3 combination. Maybe it's a health or a work procedure involving a medical or financial expert and requires very clear communication. We can have a 6-8-4 combination, which might be dealing with an emergency involving property or family that forces you to change your daily schedule a little bit. We can have a 6-11-3 combinations, which is about organizing a networking group or masterclass using a lot of technical skills here. And we can have a 6-11-4, which is about you applying discipline to your home office, your work life, for the sake of your goals. Now, because this conjunction happens in your sixth house, the experience of these combinations is one of service and strain. The sixth house is manual labor, so it's about where you pay your dues. So the combination of 183 means you are likely doing the dirty work to secure your long-term position. You aren't just thinking about it, you are physically doing the labor. So it looks like that you have been working quite a lot. With the 1-11-4 combination, this is the ultimate fix-it energy. So using the Saturn Mars discipline to re-engineer your home and your daily rhythm so that your networks can grow. It's a bit of a self-preservation, really. And then the 6-8-4 combo is it's particularly intense actually. So it suggests that a crisis or a family matter will force you to change your daily schedule. This is where you might feel that you are being drained a little bit because your routine is being disrupted by certain type of external demands. So this conjunction turns your daily life into a bit of a war room. You are not just working, you are repairing a lot of things around you. And it might be connected to your family also, your domestic base, your finances. It somehow looks like you might be a little bit exhausted. You know, um, because the sixth house rules health as well. Mars rules your first house, so you need to be very careful with all these superhuman efforts at the gym or, when you are doing manual labor, because your body is a little bit under pressure. Let's move on to Sagittarius rising sign. So Sagittarius, this is happening in your fifth house. The triple conjunction in your fifth house, the house of creativity, romance, speculation, children, and self-expression. Because this house is about what you birth into the world. Placing this very intense Saturn, Mars, Mercury energy means that you are kind of like in a creative war room. You are treating your hobbies, your creative projects, or even your dating life a bit on a higher stake. You are kind of like looking at everything from a professional operation point of view. The Mars rules your fifth and 12th house, Mercury rules your 7 and 10, Saturn rules your second and third. So I'm going to be listing the possible combinations of these houses. But if you don't know why exactly I'm giving you certain type of numbers, you might want to listen to the beginning of the video where I explain that. But we can have a 5-7-2 combination, which is a financial partnership. Maybe it's a formal contract regarding a speculative investment that requires you to commit your own capital. We can have a 5-7-3 combination, which is a collaborative pitch. So using your technical skills to sell a creative product, maybe to a business partner. We might not be seeing eye to eye though. Then we can have a 5-10-2 combination, which is taking a calculated risk, a career move that requires intense focus. Maybe you are looking at the bottom line. There could be a 5-10-3 combination as well. Maybe it's about using your skills to elevate your brand through this very new creative project. We can have a 12-7-2 combination. So this might be a secret agreement, a private deal regarding money, that something that you might not be ready to make public yet. There could be 12-7-3 combination as well. So you might be doing some behind the scenes negotiations or certain type of correspondence happening privately. Maybe it's with your partner. There could be a 12-10-2 combination, which is making a strategic change to your income streams. That might require you to work in total isolation. There could be a 12-10-3 combination too, which is about you using your private study to overhaul your professional skills. It's about kind of like fishing for new knowledge so that we can actually take our career further. Now, because this triple conjunction happens in your fifth house, everything, your career, your money, your secrets, is being filtered through your need to express yourself and take risks. So the fifth house rules athletics and competition. For a Sagittarius rising, this Mars Saturn transit is kind of like the test of strength, you know. You are likely competing against a partner, 5-7, or rival using technical power. It is a bit of a heat wave of competition. There could be kind of like this creative lockdown as well. You know, setting a strict routine to your creative output. So you aren't just playing around, you know, you are building a product that must generate income. Five second house combination to support your public status. That's the 10th. It's very much about the transformation of a hobby into kind of like, you know, more of a empire. And there could be risk management topics here as well. You know, 12-7-2 combination. You know, this is a bit suppressed rage or bitterness can creep in. And you might be taking this financial risk, 5 second, that you are hiding from the partner. That could be the 7-12 house. So you need to be transparent. It might be about an end of an agreement, meaning you know, will likely trigger a conflict. I mean, imagine that someone has hired you for something and then they disappear in the very last minute. So this conjunction turns your creative spark into kind of like a bit of a blowtorch. It feels like you're under pressure to make your hobby or project profitable. Um, but it feels like you are no longer just exploring possibilities, you are trying to execute something. You know, because the fifth house can be very athletic, so you might want to be watching out for certain type of injuries as well. But if you are a creator, then this is a time to refine your craft a little bit. But you don't have to overcorrect them, you know. Perfectionism can kind of like kill the spark. Saturn can represent perfectionism, while the fifth house is about spark. Now, let's move on to Capricorn rising sign. So this triple conjunction happens in your fourth house, the bottom of your chart, which is your home, your roots, your family, your internal sense of security. With Saturn here, it's going to be like you renovating your entire foundation, kind of like while you're living in the house, because you are represented by Saturn. This is about strengthening your roots and establishing a more of a permanent structure for your home life, for your family legacy as well. Now, Mars rules 4th and 11th, Mercury rules 6 and 9, Saturn rules first and second house. So possible house combinations are the following. But if you don't know why I'm giving you certain type of numbers, please listen to the beginning of the video where I explain this. Possible combinations are 4-1-6. So this might be you are putting a massive effort into a home renovation or scheduling your life around your family. Maybe this is also about you starting a strict routine. 1-6, it's very much connected to the body, and the fourth house is something to do with your internal peace. We can have a 4-1-9 combination, which might be an intense focus on moving, traveling. Um, you are personally leading the change. We can have a 4-2-6 combination too. So this is about managing your assets and your daily expenses to stabilize or renovate your physical living space, or you are dealing with financial matters of the parents as well. We can have a 4-2-9 combo, which might be about investing in a property or land based on a long-term goal or even legal plan. We can have a 4-11-6 combination, which might be about managing a very intense workload to support your family or even your long-term goals. So this is a bit of a manual labor for the future. We can have a 4-11-9 combo, which is potentially working together with someone or working through legal matters that might be affecting, for example, inheritance, properties, and so on. We can have a 4-1-2 combination, which is you using your income to build this fortress in your own territory. And we can have a 4-11-2 combo as well. So using your earnings to expand your influence. So, because the conjunction is happening in your fourth house, this experience is an internal kind of like hardening here. Maybe you are likely doing a little physical work, reconstructing the home base, cleaning things out, or there could be health management in your home space as well. It's definitely looking at your emotional, personal endurance. Because Mars rules your 11th house, the house of networks, the battle is happening within your professional circle or community. And you might be bringing the fight home to decide, what kind of belief system your foundation is built on. And if you aren't expressing your needs or your boundaries regarding those flatmates, family members, even the income, you can get a bit bitter about it. And the fourth house is where you retreat. So if your home isn't a place of strength, Saturn Mars energy will make it feel like a cage. And it feels like that I cannot kind of get out of these responsibilities. The fourth house is where you have to be building your own castle. It's about turning your home into kind of like a headquarter. And you might be a little bit under pressure to stabilize your roots, dealing with family, clearing out domestic matters, solidifying the family's financial future. But you are building something that, you know, that can weather any type of storm, really. In the fourth house, this can literally refer to issues with the climate of your home as well. So maybe it's getting hot in certain places. So maybe you realize that your air conditioning needs to be cleaned out, or heating, cooling systems might not be working, but also the emotional temperature of family members. So check your systems, basically. Let's move on to Aquarius rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your third house, the house of communication, short distance travels, siblings, local communities, a lot of processing of information, studying really. Now Mars rules your third house and 10th house. Mercury rules your fifth and eighth house, and Saturn rules your first and 12th house. So possible house combinations are, but if you don't know why I'm giving you certain numbers, you might want to be listening to the beginning of the video. But we can have a 3-5-1 pairing, which is a bit of a creative pitch, really. So maybe you are ready to pitch a creative project through writing, speaking. You might be ready to persuade someone. And maybe that's a sibling of yours. We can have a 3-5-12 combo, which is you working behind the scenes on a creative project, something that might require a bit of a coding or writing. We can have a 3-8-1 combination, which is about investigation. You are very driven to do a research connected to tax, debts, or certain type of crisis matters as well. We can have a 3-8-12 combination, which is your private, like you are looking into your shared financial records or legal documents, dealing with some type of financial truth. We can have a 3-5-12 combination, which is you are a little bit taking a back seat, to dive into learning a very complex skill to boost your creative output. We can have a 3-1-12 combination, which is a bit of a mental lockdown. Maybe you are forcing yourself into a period of extreme focus to finish a writing project or studying. We can have a 3-8-5 combination, which might be a heated argument with a partner, an investor, over a creative venture. And then we can have a 3-1-5 combination as well, which is you using your willpower to create, to launch. something, a new way of communicating. Now, because this conjunction is in the third house, your words and mental processes are your primary tools for these structural changes. So the third house rules short trips, but typically in your local area or neighboring countries. So this might be talking to you about that you are working relentlessly in the neighborhood, taking short trips for business matters. You are working yourself to the bone to kind of solve a financial situation. Because Saturn rules your 12th house, you might experience a period where you feel kind of a bit tongue-tied or unable to express yourself. This is a bit of a forced pause to ensure that your communications are actually aligned with your long-term goals. And maybe you are even studying a lot, or you are experiencing certain type of breakdowns with classroom matters, with teachers, or you might be wondering or having a debate about the allocation of assets as well. Or you feel like that someone hasn't necessarily said the right words, for example. So basically, it is an invitation to be careful with your words. This conjunction turns your brains into kind of like this processor. There is a lot of like a high load on your brain. You are a bit of an under pressure to upgrade your skills, your communication, to even finalize potentially a creative work, to even cut out any type of kind of bugs, old habits, beliefs out of your life as well. Remember, your words have weight. So you have to ensure that you are kind of like building a bridge with others rather than kind of like building a wall. In the third house, this actually could represent loss of signal. So watch out, your internet might go down, your laptop might fail, or you might have a temporary breakdown in certain type of vital communication channels. So have a bit of a backup plan. And last but not least, Pisces rising sign. This is going to be taking place in your second house, the house of finances, personal resources, earned income, security, but your fundamental values as well. Now, Mars rules your second and nine, Mercury rules your four and seven, and Saturn rules your 11 and 12. So I'm going to be giving you the possible house combinations, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might want to be revisiting the very beginning of my video. But we can have a 2-4-11 combo, which is maybe potentially investing income into your home or a family business because you have got a major financial goal. We can have a 2-7-12 combo, which is might be a bit of a secret investment, maybe using a bit of a capital of yours to settle a dispute or to go towards a contract. Um, or you are making certain type of hidden partnerships with someone. We can have a 9-4-11 combo, which might be you spending money on a foreign travel or higher education. You are thinking about relocation potentially. We can have a 9-7-12 combo, which might be quite a legal strategy. That could be this difficult legal or philosophical disagreement that requires you to spend money to kind of maintain your privacy. We can have a 2-4-12 combo, which is you locking down your assets and your home to kind of protecting them from any type of losses or threats. We can have a 2-7-11 combo, which might be negotiating a partnership where money is obviously the central objective. We can have a 9-4-12 combo, which can represent relocating your home for a bit more privacy or even long-term security. We can have a 9-7-11 combo as well, which might be about signing a major legal contract or just a contract with a new group, a new company that promises you a long-term stability. Now, because the conjunction happens in your second house, your self-worth and net worth are being a bit stress tested. So maybe you are working to turn your assets into, a fortress You are looking at your own resources to ensure your home is secure enough to kind of house your long-term ambitions. Because Mercury rules your seventh house, you might be experiencing an end of an agreement regarding finances. If a business partner is kind of like draining your battery, Saturn Mars will force this cold, hard, and kind of final separation. It's kind of like cutting off the power cut, you know. And you are likely feeling the need to be a bit more organized with your money as well. Maybe you decide not to play around anymore. Maybe you are reinforcing contracts, drawing lines somehow, financial lines. Um, because you are a Pisces rising sign, you are forced to value yourself through tangible, hard-won results. This conjunction is turning your wallet into a weapon. You are under pressure to stop being wishy-washy about your assets and your money. You are finalizing your financial structures, cutting out the drains, and building a foundation that is going to reflect your self-worth a lot better. You know, uh, Somehow finances are potentially making us angry. Like maybe you are not being paid what you're worth for. And the anger is the fuel for this transit. So we can actually channel this bitterness into this routine, strict routine of budgeting, business development, and so on. So, now, guys, in this video, we looked at the entire zodiac for this triple conjunction. So you have the house matrix, the axis pairing, the rulerships, a bit of a Mars Saturn grid list here. So I hope, obviously, there could have been a lot more scenario mentioned. Okay. But I just try to give you one scenario with each house pairing. But of course, it could be a lot more. When we are looking at, for example, Pisces rising sign. So looking at it from a second, fourth house, and 12th house combination. This is somehow making money here, right? Second house, out of home environment, but that brings losses. So you might be able to sell a property, but unfortunately for less than you expected. Or you have to be spending money, second house, on your property, which is a bit of a grief and sorrow for us. So I just wanted to walk you through this house pairing so you might be able to kind of think through your own chart a little bit better. Or if I'm looking at another example, from a second house, seventh house, and 11th house point of view. So then the finances connected to certain type of partnerships online that can become quite a big topic. So you might be wondering, oh, Victor, how do I decide which house pairing is going to be more prominent? Well, first tip I would give is look at if you have got, let's say you have got planets in the sign of Virgo natally, but you don't have any planets in Gemini. That house pairing might become more important for you. But I can give other tips as well, but probably this is the most important one. So, guys, good luck, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.